There were 2 marriage invitations on the table, one from Silas, the heir of the wealthiest family, and the other from Felix, the eldest son of the declining Fairfax family, who had lost a leg. In my previous life, my mother persuaded my younger sister to marry into the Fairfax family, while I married the wealthy heir Silas. After marriage, I dressed in gold and jewels, while my sister lived plainly. Consumed by envy, she pushed me off the rooftop. When I opened my eyes again, my sister picked up Silas's marriage invitation and smirked at me. "Sister, this time the good life will be mine." I laughed. "Silas is truly a madman, I have my sister to thank for that." A familiar voice sounded in my ears, "Have you 2 made your choice yet?" I knew then, I had been reborn on this very day of choosing a marriage contract. In my past life, my mother secretly called my sister Vanessa aside and earnestly persuaded her. My sister ended up choosing the declining Fairfax family first. The Fairfax family had good upbringing. Though not as wealthy as the Silas family, they provided ample food and clothing for my sister, and the whole family treated her like a treasure. Meanwhile, I, who married into the Silas family, appeared glamorous on the surface but in reality became his plaything. My sister quickly rushed forward, grabbed Silas's marriage contract, and held it tightly in her hand. With a hint of innocence in her eyes, she said, "Big sister will surely let me have my way, right? I've already made my choice. I want to marry Silas, you don't mind, do you?" In my past life, she envied my life of luxury and tricked me onto the rooftop before pushing me off. Who would have thought she would be reborn alongside me? Upon hearing this, my mother's expression instantly changed. "Vanessa, let your older sister choose first." My younger sister pouted, speaking in a tone that was both coquettish and slightly resentful. "Oh, Mom, my sister didn't say anything. Besides, Silas is exactly my type. My sister will definitely give him to me, right, sis?" I smiled and replied, "My sister is right. I don't mind." My mother asked again, "How could you marry Silas?" After speaking, she seemed to realize she had said something inappropriate and avoided eye contact. I crossed my arms and smirked at them. "What's wrong, Mom? Silas is famous, handsome, and wealthy. Why not let my sister marry him instead?" My younger sister ran over and tugged at our mother's arm. "Oh, Mom, I really like Silas. And the Fairfax family has declined so much. Felix is even lame. If I married into that family, wouldn't I have to take care of him every single day?" At the mention of Felix, my sister's eyes filled with disdain. Seeing her like this, my mother wore an expression of conflict and heartache, finally gritting her teeth and saying, "Fine, Vanessa, you choose." At that moment, my father came downstairs and said gravely, "Have you decided?" "Once you've chosen, I'll go discuss the wedding dates with both families." "I've decided, Dad." "I choose Silas," my sister said with a beaming smile. My father nodded and looked at me, "Then Eloise will marry Felix." I leisurely nodded and said, "Congratulations to my sister for finding her ideal partner." Upon hearing this, Vanessa lifted her head with a proud smile. "Don't worry, sister. I won't forget about you. If you ever need money in the future, just tell me, your little sister won't abandon you." I turned my back, nearly bursting into laughter. The title of the heir to the wealthiest family, Silas, may sound impressive, and he could easily disregard the marriage agreement with just a word, but unfortunately, Silas has his own problems. Truly capable aristocratic young ladies wouldn't choose him anyway. I can only wish my sister good luck. After the arrangements were made, both Silas and Felix, the eldest son of the Fairfax family, sent betrothal gifts in succession. Silas arrived first. Dressed in a black suit with a perfectly practiced smile, his broad shoulders and narrow waist made him strikingly handsome, yet I instinctively took a step backward. The monetary gifts alone filled 2 cases easily worth millions, followed by exquisitely crafted jewelry pieces. Vanessa's joy was written all over her face. After exchanging pleasantries, Silas left, and Vanessa chased after him with affectionate eyes. In contrast, my situation was far less impressive. Felix excused himself due to illness and didn't appear in person, But the elders who came were polite and observed all the formalities. The betrothal gifts amounted to 99,000, with complete sets of jewelry and some seemingly shabby bottles. Overall, it couldn't compare to Vanessa's. I personally escorted the elders out, only to hear my sister's mocking laughter upon returning. The stark contrast between the gifts in the room was obvious, and she didn't bother hiding her disdain as she spoke. "Big sister, this is just too shabby." And the groom didn't even show up. Seeing the triumph in her eyes, I remained silent. Just now, Silas said the wedding should happen as soon as possible, and of course my father immediately agreed. In my past life too, on the very first day of marriage, Silas burned the back of my hand with a cigarette butt and left scratches all over my body. I really wonder if my sister will be able to endure it after she goes there. My sister has been quite busy these past few days, taking wedding photos with Silas, finalizing invitations. Everything is ready to go. My sister and I had our weddings on the same day. My mom claimed it was to avoid complications, but honestly, she just couldn't be bothered to arrange another celebration for me. My side of the celebration was pitifully small, while my sister's was bustling and lively. But just as I was getting into the car, I caught sight of the groom, Felix. He gave me a gentle smile and said softly, "I'm sorry, I didn't get out of the car because my legs aren't too steady." It reminded me that in my previous life, Felix hadn't shown up either. He was still recovering from a car accident that injured his legs, and I never found out whether they fully healed. I shook my head to indicate I was fine, then forced myself to turn my head with difficulty. With looks like Felix's, how could my younger sister have been dissatisfied in her past life? His appearance surpassed even Silas by far, possessing the ethereal beauty of a jade-like gentleman unmatched in this world. Though his somewhat pale complexion gave him a fragile, delicate air. Before long, Felix's voice sounded again as he held out a sandalwood box. "This is our family heirloom passed down to daughters-in-law. Though we're wed today, I cannot personally receive you, forcing you to suffer this indignity." He opened the box to reveal an emerald green jade bracelet nestled inside. My throat tightened. This bracelet alone must be worth tens of millions. He took my hand and slipped it on. "Fits perfectly." With just this heirloom jade bracelet, I knew the so-called declining Fairfax family must have been someone important, yet my sister actually looked down on him. I noticed the car took me straight to a household, a somewhat desolate-looking small courtyard. Felix spoke again, "I'll have to trouble Eloise to push me in. I'll definitely make up for the wedding ceremony later." "It's all right, we'll talk about the future later. You just focus on recovering." Upon hearing this, a flicker of amusement flashed in Felix's eyes. Besides, Felix had already informed me that due to health reasons, a banquet wouldn't be feasible. I agreed without hesitation. Little did I expect that at 6 o'clock the next morning, my mother would summon me home. Looking at my sister crying in the room, showing the wounds on her hands to my mother, I immediately understood what was going on. I didn't step forward but simply watched the mother and daughter. Just then, my father returned from outside and immediately slapped my sister. "What are you doing? Silas called me early this morning saying you were missing." I was shocked, and then I got your mother's call. "Don't embarrass me like this. Wasn't the man your own choice?" Judging by my mother's expression, it seemed they hadn't discussed this beforehand. And my father wouldn't listen to her. After all, Silas's collaboration with my father's company was extensive. If they offended Silas, my father's company would be ruined. I heard my father roar, "Vanessa, you get back inside right now." Seeing this, my mother shielded my younger sister. "What are you doing? Look how badly she's been beaten. If you don't feel sorry for her, I do." My sister also started crying. "Mom, Silas is a total psycho." "Mom, just let me switch with my sister. We're twins anyway, no one will know the difference." Hearing this, my father's expression suddenly calmed. My heart sank. I never should have come back. My mother had clearly tricked me into coming back. They had long since agreed to use me as a replacement for my sister in the engagement to Silas. Watching my father's emotional expression, I felt utterly chilled to the bone. Back when my sister and I were born, my father's company stocks plummeted immediately. After that, nothing seemed to go right for him, and in desperation, he consulted a fortune teller. That charlatan muttered some mystical nonsense, claiming one of the two children was destined to bring him misfortune. After some random finger-pointing, he singled me out, "It's her." From that moment on, my father sent me away. I only returned after reaching adulthood, but there was never any closeness between us. Presumably, to them, they only have one daughter, Vanessa, not me. I clenched my trembling fists. Mom, Dad, do you really think Silas is a fool? She's covered in bruises, while I don't have a single mark. If Silas finds out his secret was exposed by my sister, do you really think he'd let our family off the hook? But my mother spoke up, "The wounds can be identical. You're the older sister, shouldn't you help your sibling more?" With those words, my heart died, utterly and completely. I quickly stepped back, ready to leave this place, but my mother suddenly shouted at my father, "Do you want to send your daughter to her death?" Hearing this, my father swiftly turned and ran toward me, the weight of despair crashing down upon me. Just as my father was about to grab me, I heard Felix's voice outside the door, "Eloise, it's time to go home." Hope flared in my eyes, but just as I was about to shout, my father covered my mouth from behind. Meanwhile, my mother took an outfit I'd left behind from my room and had Vanessa put it on, covering her scars. Whispering to Vanessa, she said, "Go on now, don't let it slip. Mom and Dad will handle things here." And so, Vanessa opened the door to see Felix waiting outside in his wheelchair. She quickly ran to him and sweetly called out, "Honey, let's go home." I could only let out faint whimpers. Felix wouldn't hear them, and the ones using all their strength to restrain me were my own parents. Tears streamed from the corners of my eyes as I stopped struggling altogether. But unexpectedly, Felix outside the door spoke coldly, "Do you really think I wouldn't recognize my own wife?" My younger sister anxiously tried to explain, "We just changed clothes, I accidentally dirted mine, and since there were my clothes at home, I changed into them." My mother also walked out from behind and nodded in agreement, "That's right, the clothes were just changed by Eloise." But Felix didn't even glance at them, instead saying, "You'd better let my wife come out to see me, or else I'll go in myself." Seeing that the lie wouldn't hold, my father had no choice but to release me, lowering his voice to threaten, "You'd better not cause any trouble for me." I wiped away my tears and stepped out from behind the door, composing myself as if nothing had happened. Forcing a smile, I said, "I thought you wouldn't be able to tell us sisters apart. Let's go back." I skillfully pushed Felix's wheelchair, ignoring my sister's resentful gaze. But before I could make my next move, I saw Silas walking in from outside, his face dark. "So you ran back home," he sneered. He yanked my sister up, his eyes filled with unreadable emotions. "Next time, just tell me if you want to come home, wife. I'll bring you myself." Then he shot my father a warning look. "Father-in-law, this isn't right. Why didn't you call me when Vanessa was home? Next time something like this happens, father-in-law, please inform me immediately." Silas emphasized the word immediately with particular intensity. My father broke out in a cold sweat and nodded frantically. As I wheeled Felix out of the neighborhood, neither of us spoke, though he patted my hand reassuringly with his. By the time we got home, my mood had improved considerably, and I finally asked, "How did you know that was Vanessa?" He raised an eyebrow. "You've forgotten, since I didn't make up for the wedding ceremony, I said I wouldn't touch you, and you don't need to call me husband. So you promised to call me by my name, but you're going back on your word after just one day? I'm not an idiot." Hearing this, I burst out laughing. "If you don't want to go back in the future, then don't. This is your home," he said, looking at me with utmost seriousness. His words left me stunned. My greatest wish had always been for someone to tell me, "This is your home." Now someone has said it to me, a man I married without ever having met before. "Thank you," I said softly, but he just smiled and replied, "It's me who owes you thanks." I looked up in confusion, but he simply walked into his study without the slightest intention to explain. Then my phone rang, a message from Mom, sorry, Eloise. Mom was wrong. Don't take it to heart. I didn't respond. How could she possibly think she was wrong? She must still be scheming behind my back on how to rescue her precious daughter. Besides, knowing my dear sister's temperament, she wouldn't just let this go quietly. Sure enough, I soon received an invitation to attend my sister's birthday banquet. And Silas was quite indulgent with her. Not only did he agree, but he even booked the venue at a luxury hotel. I had no choice but to buy some gift to bring along. It was just going through the motions anyway. Just then, Felix called out to me, "Eloise, come over here. Just pick any one of these to take to your sister." The exterior of the house looked utterly dilapidated, and the inside was rather dim too. As soon as I stepped inside and took a closer look, I was completely stunned. The entire place was filled with collectibles, though they appeared worn, each was priceless. I shook my head and pushed his wheelchair out. No, she's not worthy. I'll just buy something random. Felix smiled. I heard your brother-in-law invited quite a few celebrities. How could I let my wife lose face? If this one isn't good, then open the boxes below and take a look. Only then did I notice there were many small boxes underneath. I stepped forward and casually opened one. Unless I was mistaken, this was the new jewelry collection released the year before last. Only 3 existed worldwide. I opened the other boxes one by one, but in the end, I had no choice but to pick one I had never seen before. Before leaving, I couldn't help but wonder if my sister had something wrong with her head in my past life. How could a room full of such fine treasures not compare to Silas? Then I shook my head. In my past life, the room looked very shabby, so my sister probably never even went inside. By the time I arrived at the scene holding the plain wooden box, many guests had already gathered, and my sister was surrounded by numerous noble ladies. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up, and she trotted over to take my hand affectionately, a gesture that drew the gazes of all those noble young ladies toward me. Wearing an ordinary dress, I stood out awkwardly among them. My sister, brimming with joy, pulled me forward as she introduced me. "This is my sister, Eloise." Had I not caught the calculation in her eyes, I might have believed this was a scene of genuine sisterly affection. Sure enough, the next second she snatched the box from me and casually flipped through it. "Is this a gift for me, sister? How shabby. The box is so worn out too." The noble ladies around us burst into mocking laughter, casting disdainful glances my way. My sister pretended not to care as she comforted me. "It's all right, sister. I know your family situation isn't good, and your husband is a cripple. I don't mind. You didn't have to bring a gift at all. After all, we're sisters, who needs formalities between us?" I didn't even feel like speaking, just watching her indifferently. She opened the box to reveal a delicate little bracelet inside, along with a string of English letters I didn't recognize. Just as I was about to laugh mockingly, a noble lady suddenly exclaimed in shock, "This is the new limited edition from that famous international designer." I tried to get one but couldn't. I clicked my tongue inwardly, still too expensive after all. My younger sister stared at the noble lady in disbelief, stammering, "That can't be real. There's no way this is genuine." The noble lady immediately retorted, "The markings are right there. Do you take me for a fool?" Having said that, she turned and left. Seeing this, the other noble ladies also cast a glance at my sister before departing. My sister turned her head back, gritting her teeth as she spoke. "Elder sister, are you playing tricks on me?" "What a brilliant scheme you've devised, elder sister," she said, her venomous gaze fixed on me as she tightly clutched the box in her hand. I raised an eyebrow. "Sister, what are you talking about? I don't understand a word." She grabbed my arm violently, her eyes blazing with fury. "Stop pretending, Eloise. Did you also get reborn?" Seeing her drop all pretenses, I stopped acting too. "Tisk, Vanessa, you're not stupid after all. Pretty accurate guess." Fine. Have you been deceiving me since the previous life? Flaunting your glamorous life to make me jealous, and now stealing my man in this lifetime. Upon hearing Vanessa's words, I almost burst out laughing. Vanessa, wasn't this all your choice? As for now, Silas is your man. Even though it was her birthday, Vanessa was bundled up tightly. Her gown not only had long sleeves but also covered her neck, making it seem like she had new injuries on her body. Her grip on my arm suddenly tightened, sending pain shooting through my limb. Eloise, I know your secret. Aren't you afraid I'll expose it and let everyone know you've been reborn, so they can take you away for research? I shook her off and spoke coldly. Vanessa, do you really think anyone would believe you if you said that? If you have the guts, go ahead and say it, the mental hospital is waiting for you. Seeing that her threat didn't work, she changed her tune. Eloise, don't you remember how you died in your past life? I can make you die again in this lifetime. I chuckled coldly. I'm waiting for you, little sister. Do you really think I'd still fear you in this life and let you hurt me again? Without hesitation, I left the banquet. I couldn't stay another moment. Once outside, I unexpectedly saw a familiar figure kissing a woman before leading her to the underground parking garage. It was Silas. I followed behind them and finally got a clear look at the woman's face. It turned out to be Silas's stepmother. They took something from the car and then went upstairs. Suddenly, I didn't feel like leaving anymore. After seeing them enter a room, I had a strong feeling that something interesting was about to happen today. When I entered the banquet, I overheard someone asking Vanessa where Silas had gone, saying they needed to speak with him. Vanessa's face turned slightly pale, and she stammered in response. From behind, I pitched my voice and said, I think I saw Silas heading toward the lounge at the end of the hallway. Then he took advantage of the crowd and slipped away. Vanessa nodded eagerly when she heard someone respond, Yes, Silas told me he has a bit of a headache and wants to rest for a while. Let me take you to him. With that, many people followed Vanessa, as most of them had come specifically for Silas. I never expected him to be so bold as to do such a thing on a day like this. And I also recalled some things from my past life. No wonder Silas used to share a room with me only to torment me before hastily leaving. Turns out, he was going to see that stepmother of ours. I followed behind the crowd, and when my sister turned the doorknob, I clicked my tongue in annoyance. I should have brought some sunflower seeds. This guy didn't even lock the door. My sister pushed the door open and froze on the spot, while I faintly heard the sounds of groaning inside. I saw it too. The room was strewn with clothes, an absolute mess. The quicker ones had already pulled out their phones to start recording. From inside the room, Silas growled in anger, Get the hell out, all of you. Who would listen to such a juicy scandal? And just then, my sister snapped. She grabbed a glass from the table and hurled it, screaming, You bitch! You bitch! The moment I saw their faces, I could tell my sister was completely shocked, and she broke down even more. She collapsed to her knees, crying and cursing. At that moment, Silas had already put his clothes back on, got off the bed, and slammed the door shut, threatening, If this video gets posted online, you'll face the consequences. The crowd left with little enthusiasm, and before departing, I could still hear my sister's cries. She even yelled, I want a divorce. What was supposed to be a nice birthday party turned into quite a spectacle, though it was entertaining to watch. As soon as I stepped out, I spotted Felix, holding a trench coat in his hand. When he saw me, he waved. Then he handed me the coat, saying, It's a bit chilly outside. Put this on. I looked at him curiously, What brings you here? I came to pick up my woman, nothing wrong with that, right? He smiled, and I laughed too. After getting in the car, noticing my good mood, he asked, You seem to be in a good mood. Did something nice happen? I briefly explained what had happened at the banquet to him. He nodded, Don't associate with them in the future. What if they corrupt you? They won't. I laughed, looking at him. The next day, just as I expected, Silas's threats proved utterly useless. His affair directly topped the trending searches, though Silas soon managed to suppress it. Still, those who needed to know found out. After dealing with the matter, Silas took Vanessa to my parents' house. Seeing this situation, my father even called me, since I happened to be there that day, saying Silas specifically demanded that I return too. I thought maybe Silas had seen something on the surveillance footage, but I didn't care much. Still, I was a little worried about causing trouble for Felix. I was feeling torn when Felix walked into the room and spoke gently, "Don't be afraid. Do whatever you want. I'll handle everything." I lifted my eyes and directly met his gaze. His eyes were filled with nothing but me. Just like that, he took me home but didn't come inside. The moment I stepped in, I sensed a heavy atmosphere. Everyone's eyes were on me, except for my younger sister, who clung to my mother's arm, weeping. On the sofa sat an old man who seemed vaguely unfamiliar. The moment he spoke, I instantly recognized him and sharply turned to look at Silas. My God, his father was still alive. Silas's father spoke up, "This is my foolish son's fault. I'll handle it properly. Let's just consider this matter settled, shall we? I will also compensate Vanessa properly, and I'll invest in the project your company is currently working on." This was truly a huge temptation. My father's eyes were darting around, clearly tempted by the offer. Watching his father still trying to clean up his son's mess, it seems he still doesn't know who exactly his son had an affair with. Seeing this, my sister cried even harder and revealed the large and small bruises on her arm. "Mom, I can't go back there, it would be the death of me." I saw his father was about to say more when my sister, throwing caution to the wind, shouted loudly, "The woman he cheated with yesterday was your wife." This startled even my mother, who quickly covered her mouth. Silas, meanwhile, looked at my sister with icy coldness in his eyes. Hearing this, his father abruptly stood up and turned to Silas, "Is what she said true?" Silas just placed his hand on his father's shoulder and patted it. "Dad, she's talking nonsense." "How could I? She just wants a divorce, that's why she's saying this." Silas soothed his father, then swept his gaze around the room. "This marriage is not going to end in divorce. You'd better consider the consequences." At these words, my father received a phone call. What? Many projects have shifted their investments? How could this happen? After hanging up the phone, Silas looked at my father with a mocking smile. Everyone already knew what was going on. Gritting his teeth, my father grabbed my sister's arm and said, "Silas, take her back with you." My sister was being dragged away, her face full of despair. "I'll die, Dad." Seeing that my father remained unmoved, she had no choice but to soften her stance and said, "Then I'd like to talk with my sister in her room for a while. I'll leave with Silas once we're done." My father agreed and looked at me. "Go and talk some sense into your sister." Vanessa and I went upstairs. I stood by the window while she closed the door behind her, drew a dagger from her sleeve, and charged at me. But I had been prepared, having noticed her subtle movements. I dodged and kicked her to the ground. Already covered in injuries, Vanessa couldn't get back up after that kick. She glared at me with hatred, hissing, "Why should you be the one to endure all this? You knew everything but didn't tell me, why don't you just die?" I looked down at her coldly. "Vanessa, isn't this what you wanted? Designer clothes, chauffeured cars, and a luxury mansion. Shut up. It's all your fault. You shouldn't even be alive, all of this should have been mine." Vanessa's hair was disheveled as she struggled to get up like a madwoman. I kicked her again, sending her sprawling back to the ground, then turned and walked out. She left only these words, "Enjoy the life you've chosen, little sister." After stepping outside, I surprisingly didn't see Felix in his wheelchair. Just as I was wondering where he could be, I sensed someone approaching from behind. Instinctively turning around and stepping back, I nearly lost my balance but was caught by the person. With a faint smile playing on his lips, Felix said, "What's all this about? Let's go home." I looked at Felix, who was completely unscathed, and blurted out, "When did you get better?" "I've been doing rehabilitation recently, so I can walk normally now. It's time we made up for your wedding." It happened to be my birthday that day. He knew everything. The wedding dress he personally picked out, the roses, the wedding ring, nothing was missing, and everything was designed by Felix himself. Just in time, as I was about to step out, someone covered my mouth from outside. Then I watched with my own eyes as my mother urged Vanessa to change into another long-sleeved wedding dress. "Hurry up, Vanessa, we'll draw attention if we're late." Then I felt dizzy and was dragged out. When I woke up again, I found myself facing a rundown factory building. A few men were arguing outside. "This girl is pretty good looking. That old woman said to keep her locked up, just don't let her die. Why don't we, heh heh." My heart tightened as I recalled the scene before I lost consciousness. I had thought my mother wanted to attend my wedding to help me dress up and witness my real marriage. It was all an act for her daughter's sake. I had no idea what time it was now, or if the wedding was already over. As long as I didn't return, she would rightfully become Felix's wife. The iron door creaked open, revealing a sliver of light in the dim space. But the visitor was that man, their bare arms covered in tattoos, cigarette dangling from their fingers. "Oh, the woman's awake, boss. Being awake is better, isn't it? Better than lying there like a corpse, no fun at all." "True, ha 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 ha." Several men approached me, and I shook my head desperately. "Boss, the woman's crying. Take that thing out of her mouth, I still want to hear her scream." A man roughly yanked the gag out of my mouth. With a hoarse voice, I pleaded, "Please let me go, I'll pay you double whatever amount you want." The bald man slapped my face and said, "You think I don't know who you are? You don't have a damn cent to your name." "I do, I have money." "Ah." A man tore open my clothes, exposing large patches of skin, while the surrounding men burst into laughter. My body trembling, I seized the moment when the bald man leaned in and sank my teeth into his ear. A piercing scream followed as the metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. "You bitch, how dare you hurt my boss?" A slap came crashing down. The bald man clutched his ear, eyes burning with fury, and pressed a lit cigarette toward my face. The crimson cigarette butt came closer and closer to me. I closed my eyes as the iron gate creaked open once more. I heard the agonized screams of that group of people. The next second, someone scooped me up, and a familiar voice reached my ears, "Eloise, I'm late." Those words shattered my last defenses. I burst into loud sobs immediately, both hands clutching desperately at Felix's clothes. Felix took me to the hospital for a full-body examination. Only after confirming there were no issues did he bring me home. At that moment, I had already fallen asleep in his arms, but my sleep was restless, my brows furrowed. He gently patted me, comforting me. Slowly, I began to relax. It turned out that on the wedding day, as soon as Vanessa appeared, Felix noticed something was wrong. He pulled Vanessa aside, glaring at her with fury. "Where's Eloise?" At first, my sister stubbornly refused to admit anything, until Felix truly lost his temper. He grabbed my sister by the throat, squeezing tighter and tighter, until my mother finally rushed over and told Felix where I was to save my sister. Only after my father's company went bankrupt and my mother and sister were sent to prison did I learn that Fairfax was never some declining family, it was the sole remaining ancient aristocratic house still in existence today. That's right, Felix didn't even spare Silas any face. What's more, he pulled some strings to ensure my mother and sister would spend the rest of their lives behind bars. These days, I clung to Felix constantly, following him everywhere. But one day, I realized he had disappeared. I hurried out to find him and saw him driving to the police station, so I followed. The officers at the station seemed to recognize me and didn't stop me. Trailing behind Felix, I heard my sister's voice. "Felix, I'm telling you, Eloise is nothing but a used pair of shoes, she's been with Silas. Why would you still want someone like her? Better get me out of here and marry me instead." My heart shuddered when I heard this. She was talking about things from our previous life. Felix didn't respond, while Vanessa continued, "What? Are you actually considering agreeing to it?" I clenched my slightly sweaty palms as I heard Felix's voice. "Vanessa, I came only to make you give up. I never expected you'd not only show no remorse, but even slander Eloise to my face. It seems your prison mates have been too lenient with you." I'll make sure someone gives you special attention. Hearing footsteps approaching, I hurriedly ran outside, hailed a taxi, and returned home. The moment Felix walked through the door, I rushed over and threw my arms around him. Felix looked somewhat surprised, then reached out to ruffle my hair gently as he asked softly, "Eloise, what are you up to?" "I want to snuggle with my hubby." The term hubby made Felix freeze momentarily before his smile blossomed. "My dear, I want to give you a proper classical wedding." "Yes, I've always preferred classical weddings." He remembered even though I'd only mentioned it in passing. "This time, happiness truly belongs to me." After marriage, Felix and I returned to his home to meet his parents. I hadn't expected he also had a younger brother, just 10 years old. His family was very kind and took an immediate liking to me. 1 year into our marriage, I became pregnant. This made Felix, who already doted on me, treat me even better. It was then that I heard a story from him. He had indeed been in poor health since childhood, having tried every medicine imaginable. It wasn't until he grew older that his condition gradually improved. When he was little, he also went to school, but he couldn't participate in PE classes or morning exercises, making other children feel he was somewhat out of place. Eventually, they even formed cliques to isolate him. Until a transfer student girl appeared, and he finally had a friend. No matter what other kids said or did, that girl wouldn't listen and only played with him. That girl was me. It wasn't until he mentioned this part that I began to recall some memories. "So you're that skinny, fragile-looking sickly one who seems like they'd topple over with a push. Back then, I really thought you'd faint at the slightest touch. And the way they treated you, I couldn't stand it. That's why I kept playing with you." I clutched my stomach and burst out laughing, but quickly realized, in our past life, when he doted on my sister endlessly, could it be he mistook her for me? I abruptly changed the subject. "What would you have done if you'd married my sister back then?" He lowered his head. "I had that thought. I figured if it were your sister, I'd treat her well too. After all, she is your sister." I stood up. "So you never once mistook her for me?" Felix immediately protested. "I recognized you the moment I saw you. And thank goodness it was you." Hearing this, I looked up at the sky. Thankfully, our previous life had just been some cruel joke from fate. This time, it was real. After giving birth, I had a boy. He said, "I will always cherish you and our child." Holding the baby, I softly replied, "Me too."